was far from perfect, but when you have Tyler McGill deciding in a last-minute decision to be tonight's starter instead of Paul Blackburn, who has a back flare up there to kick off their series in Toronto against the Blue Jays, little did we know that we would see Tyler McGill with his best start yet for the New York Metropolitans. How's it going, all you amazing Mets fans? It's your guy Wardy, and I am hyped up to get into this one. Edwin Diaz just missed giving up the game-time bomb there in the ninth, but that's okay. Starling Marte catches it, and the Mets win this one by a final score of 3-2, with the Atlanta Braves faltering to the team that the Mets took care of business without a problem securing the series. The Reds take down the Braves 1-0. The Mets are in sole possession of that third wildcard spot. We have a lot to break down as Tyler McGill just gave the Mets a good problem to have. What are they going to do next turn in the order for their rotation now? Because Tyler McGill just came out and just retired 16 straight batters. Are you kidding me? We're going to do a complete deep dive with my fantastic man and Isaac Rothman, who is our pitching contributor on the channel. Isaac has a lot of information relayed my way that we're going to break down into the brilliance that was Tyler McGill's masterful outing, going 6 shutty, 9 Ks, retiring 16 straight. It doesn't get much better than that. On the offensive end, the Mets struggles continue, and after giving up a couple runs, down 2-1 in this ball game, 2-0 or so, how would they respond? Well, the offense did what they need to do, just got enough. Yes, it's still a problem. Yes, we're going to talk about how this Mets team is playing far from their best baseball, but when you got a guy in Eddie Alvarez, who the Mets acquired today via trade, check out my video on that earlier on the channel in case you haven't already making an impact, folks. Just like Pablo Reyes, he entered Eddie Alvarez there as a pinch runner for Francisco Alvarez. Some Alvy on Alvy action there, and that would be the pinch run, and that would be the victory as he secures it after a wild pitch gets past there. The backstop slides in easily. The Mets win this one, baby. Let's break down all the deets, all the details, and how the Mets are now, yes, folks, drum roll, please get ready for this, a whopping just 1.5 games out of the first wild card spot, trailing the San Diego Padres. Yes, I told you all for the past month, the Mets, if they're going to find themselves in, they're going to probably flip-flop quite a bit. We're going to see in, out, in, out, in, out for them being in the wild card, but now we see this Mets team comfortably in a spot right now, at least for tonight, a full game ahead of the Atlanta Braves. So should Atlanta, say, lose tomorrow's game and the Mets win another, we got 2 games grounded there on the Atlanta Braves. Finally, the Mets are taking advantage of Atlanta doing nothing on the offensive end, and even when the Mets bats did everything in their power to try to keep things tied in that wild card because they had nothing to show, thankfully Eddie Alvarez and thankfully Francisco Alvarez with some really, I'm not even going to say elite hitting, just hitting in general with a little bit of an infield dribbler, thankfully would be the difference when you have incompetent defense from Bad Funny's Clement. We're going to get into the woes for the Blue Jays in this one and everything in between. Headline, as I mentioned, with Tyler McGill's greatness, 6 shutty. We're going to get into what didn't work there, not so much for Danny Young, but also in Jose Budo. Where did they labor? Why did they labor? Ryan Stanek has been absolutely fantastic, far better than what you might initially think. If we go back to his outing there against the Seattle Mariners, or his former club, in which he gave up 4 earned runs, since then Ryan Stanek has allowed just 1 measly run over 7.2 innings, a couple hits, and 11 strikeouts. Yeah, when you got that fastball and you got that splitty, the way that he's working it, he's one of the better higher leverage arms that you could ask for in this Mets bullpen, and it could not come at a better time. Edwin Diaz worked a clean inning there in the ninth to secure the save. Was it the prettiest save? No, but that's okay. Edwin isn't going to be lights out every single time out there, and the Mets need to bail him out. In the case of bailing out, it was making sure that ball fell just short and it's Starling Marte's glove there in right field to secure this victory. But folks, before we deep dive everything from not only this victory, but why we have to be hyped up about this Mets team now, officially in that third wildcard spot, let's let it rip as we always do with the one, the only, the official WardyNYM post-game jangle. Shout out to my guys Greg and Jordan with the official WardyNYM post-game jungle. You know the drill by now. We can't take it anymore, said D-Rag. Hit us with the beat. I got you, baby. We're rolling it. We're doing it. And now after we were hyped up, folks, I'm going to take us back a notch only for a second here, as I did in our video on Eddie Alvarez earlier today, because we need to shed some light on the very unfortunate news that we heard earlier today, and that was the sad passing of Mr. Met himself and Ed Kranepool. For those who don't know, Ed Kranepool, who grew up idolizing the Mets when they first became a thing there in the early 60s, from the area, Ed gets drafted and picked up by the Mets as a 17-year-old, in which he's starting to make his impact, and he would go on to be the longest tenured Met in Metropolitan history. Most games played, roughly 20 seasons, right around 18 there for Ed, who had home run heroics there as part of those amazing Mets back, winning it all in 1969. Ed, who dealt with some health issues that we saw the past couple years, overcame them, but sadly we saw passed away due to cardiac arrest over the past day or so there at his home that he resides in Florida. So not only rest in peace to Ed Kranepool and everything that he's meant to the Mets organization, a selfless human being who I've heard nothing but amazing things about from fans and also fellow players who have had the privilege of meeting Ed, as he would commonly find himself there every year in Mets spring training as long as he was healthy and capable enough to be there, knowing that he was a Florida native as is. It was great to see Ed with the Mets earlier this year. It is beyond heartbreaking to hear this news, as another fallen hero, a part of those amazing Mets back in 1969, is no longer with us. So I'm thinking about Ed Kranepool's entire family and friends during this time of grief, and ultimately just appreciating the greatness that was Ed Kranepool as one of the best Metropolitans to ever do it. A true fantastic hitter that legged out roughly 20 seasons of not only an MLB career, but a Metropolitan lone career. It does not get much more impressive than that. We're thinking of Ed Kranepool as he has sadly passed away at the age of 79. Appreciate you guys. If you guys are catching this on audio, that was the reason for the pause. Just a little moment of silence there. And speaking of audio, everybody, you guys know the drill by now. You can catch Wardy here live on YouTube every single night, along with X, where we have concurrent right now over 700 live viewers between the two, and wherever you get your audio podcasts. That means Spotify, Apple, Google, you name it. Head over, type in WardyNYM, leave a 5-star review if you found yourself enjoying the audio-only content over there, and be on the lookout as we're going to continue to pump out content every single day on the channel, in season, all season for the most part. We got you covered with all things Mets here at WardyNYM. Now, I want to see those W's spammed in the chat, everybody, per usual. That's how we do these live shows. Before I break down to a T everything that transpired in this one and my big takeaways, this is not going to be a long-winded show tonight, Harrison, so no, we're not going to be doing callers. I apologize. Don't worry, though, we will be doing callers again sometime this week, and I will inform you guys when exactly that'll be. In the interim, though, we're going to break down all the key aspects to this game, Tyler McGill's brilliance, the bullpen as a whole, what I liked, what I didn't like, and ultimately where this Mets team currently stands right now, well above 500 that we know, and sole possession of that third wildcard spot. Just how much better can it get? Will it get better, or is this the peak of the Mets regular season? That and more is what we're going to get into shortly, everybody. But Bobby G, how you doing? Harrison, Rebecca, great member. Daryl, how you doing? Camp, great member as always. Going up the list, Frank Sessa, $2 Hollow, great member. It was blue night for the Jays. It was a blue night for the Jays. Love the wordplay there, Frank. I love you, my man. Thank you so much for the donations the past couple days too, for my pre-recorded content as well. That really means a lot. Anyone that's ever went out of their way to do that, because as you guys know, you can also donate on pre-recorded videos, even if they're not live, by going down the comments section, just donate whatever you want. Frank has been very generous in doing so of recent, so seriously, thank you, Frank. I greatly appreciate that. Shout out to my guy Dave Kaplitz and Steve Long, great members, great friends of mine here on the channel. Hope you guys are doing well. Matthew, Chris Norton, how are you? Going up the list here, BC, Ryan, great member. Blue Jimmy, how are you, my man? AZ, great member. Put in the books, baby. William, Jason, Scott, Bull, SR, great member. Thank you all chiming in live and on replaying. D-Mac with a $5 haul to get the party started has this to say. I'm a child of the 70s. After Seaver, Kuzman, McGraw, Kaneman were gone, Kranepool remained. Sad to hear, but happy we won today. It is very sad to hear. And as a seasoned fan, a grizzled vet of a fan and yourself, D-Mac, you certainly can appreciate those players far more than I ever could, because I didn't get the luxury of witnessing them in person. person, and even though that I've learned plenty about them growing up as a young Mets fan, I know that there's nothing that can really come close to seeing them live in person and being a part of those great runs that they had with those respected players. So thank you so much for the donation, D-Mac. I appreciate that. A sad day in Mets land, to say the least, but I absolutely know the Mets will honor Ed as great as they can all next season long, as we heard Keith talking about in the broadcast today, and that makes sense, especially after the recent passings to other former Mets that we have seen this season, and knowing the, not to separate Ed Kranepool from anyone else, but knowing how he has really been the embodiment of Mr. Met, I'd imagine the Mets are going to make sure that they honor him properly all throughout the 2025 season by rocking his number and anything else that they may find themselves doing. So Ed Kranepool, we will always appreciate him and everything he meant to this Mets organization. But guys, let's get into this one. Let's break down exactly what transpired in this matchup. But I know we got Jets fans watching right now, and I apologize, Jets fans. If you guys know me, then you know the final thing that I'm going to relay to each and every one of you is the following. Yes, folks, when we look at the latest on the betting front, these betting lines, you guys know our amazing sponsor here at BetUS that has you covered with all your sports betting needs. If you check them out today by simply going to betus.com.pa and sign up, you will get a 150% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 with my amazing promo code YouTube150. That is the word YouTube and then the numbers 150, and that'll have you covered for all your sports betting needs. And with all the athletes doing well in the betting game, and when we take a look right now at, why can't I pull this over? I'm having such a problem with it. All right, there we go. We have a 2-leg parlay rocking right now. It's just over $20 to win, $23.70. The Lions paired with the San Francisco 49ers. I know I just ruffled a lot of Jets fans' feathers that want to see your team rally back against San Fran. They're late, down 26-13, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. I hope the Jets prove me wrong, but because the Jets are the Jets and they haven't proved me wrong at this point, I'm obviously going with the Niners. Prove me wrong. If there's a parlay that I'm happy to lose, it's this one, because I'm with you, Jets fans. I have no ill will. I'm a Steelers fan, so outside of you getting offended of us taking care of business against you in the AFC Championship a decade ago, there's really no ill will between us, and let's keep it that way. So, Jets fans, I know I offended some of you, but know that I have to be as rational of a sports bettor when I place these bets, and that's exactly why I'm doing that with our awesome friends here at BetUS with our 2-leg parlay. To everyone that tailed, good luck. We got the Lions leg. Let's see what happens now with San Fran and this Jets matchup. Again, if I'm going to lose $20, I'd rather lose $20 because a team like the Jets is finally have themselves a victorious outing, and they deserve it, to say the least. But it felt more like the 2022 Mets today in this outing because they were absolute ball magnets. First, we see Marky V, and if you're going to hurt Mark, you're going to have to deal with me then, and you're going to have to deal with every other Mets fan because he has been our saving grace along with Francisco Lindor this year. Vientos gets on with a hit by pitch. Then we see, after that, we see Brandon Nimmo ground into a force out, so he gets on with fielder's choice, and he would go on to steal his 13th bag of the year. Crazy to hear Brandon Nimmo with 13 steals, but he's stolen the bags well when he has found himself running. The bat hasn't been all that relevant, and that's really labored for him the second half of the season. You just have to pray that in the case of Nimmo that it can break out, and honestly, if it's going to break out against anyone, it's a Philadelphia Phillies team that he's had a lot of heroics, a lot of success with beginning this weekend to make that happen. We'll find out, however. On the case of Tyler McGill, he did not have an easy first inning, and the crazy thing is when you look at Tyler McGill's first inning versus how he rounded out the ball game thereafter, it's night and day. It is truly night and day. We see McGill with 2 outs allow Vladdy Guerrero Jr. to get on with a walk. The 2-out walk coming back to kill the Mets yet again. Spencer Horwitz, who is not related to the GOAT and Jay Horwitz in the Mets organization, if you know, you know. He rips his 17th double of the year, though, so you got runners right away at second and third. Will Wagner comes on with a walk. Who's Will Wagner? Exactly. Bases loaded there for Tyler McGill, and all he needs is that one final out, and thankfully he gets it from Alejandro Kirk there on the ground out to end the inning. So Tyler McGill in one inning throws 30 or so pitches and has himself a bases loaded jam that he somehow, someway escapes unscathed. If that is impressive, I don't know what is, and what he would do after this would be even that much more impressive for the remainder of this start. But on the offensive end, the Mets went down. They struck out a pair there in JDM and Marte in the second. Bats just had nothing to show for what was a bullpen game there by Toronto. They threw out Burr for 2, then they brought in Frias for 1.1. Yarbrough went 3.2 strong innings. Nance came in, and that's where the Mets finally pounced. Swanson, so you threw, 5 to 6 pitchers there for the Toronto Blue Jays. Didn't have one set-in-stone starter from the beginning, and in a very Metsian fashion where their offense should break out against a lot of what is lackadaisical bullpen for the Toronto Blue Jays, the Mets do anything but thankfully they did what they need to do, and that was to just have enough more runs than what we saw there in the Toronto Blue Jays to win this ball game. And speaking of the Blue Jays and the Mets here, we would get back into breaking down this one as they would both do nothing in the third. We get to the fourth, Pete Alonso gets on that we would see with the walk. Jose Iglesias gets on with a hit by pitch, so the Mets with 2 outs finally have something cooking here, and this was after Ryan Yarbrough, the soft-tossing southpaw who's been with Tampa, who's been with Kansas City, is now with Toronto. I mean, I guess you got to be the color blue, and Yarbrough's going to be on your squad. He grounds out Brandon Nimmo, lefty on lefty to come in, and then Pete Alonso gets on with a walk, and this is where everything starts to fall flat on its face here for Yarbrough. After the walk, we see a hit by pitch to Jose Iglesias. Jose getting the start in the 5 spot today. Very interesting to see Jose batting the order the way he was between Alonso and JDM. Curious how you guys feel about that in the comments down below to my 1,000 concurrent viewers. And to all my guys watching live on YouTube, make sure to smash that like and subscribe on, greatly appreciated. And to all my live viewers on X, make sure you head over to the YouTube channel where we are the largest platform, not directly affiliated with the Mets or any other platform like that. Check us out, folks. That way you can get involved with the live show. I can answer your comments, see what you have to say, and we can have ourselves a great time here in the live show with our amazing Mets community. But the Mets would go up 1-0. It'll be all thanks to that dad strength from Mr. JD Martinez. JDM, who did have himself a nice hit that we saw a day or so ago, has himself an opposite field RBI single to drive in the Mets' first run of the day. They're up 1-0. Pete Alonso gets home, and we're up by 1 heading into now after the 4th, because we see Mr. Tyler McGill take care of business without a problem. 1-2-3 with a pair of strikeouts there on Horowitz and Wagner. And the 5th, the Mets would try to get something going with a 1-out walk there to Francisco Alvarez. They are not going to drive him in, however. So then we get to the bottom of the 5th. And what happens in the bottom of the 5th? Tyler McGill has his best inning of the day, striking out the side. Assenberger, you're done. Leo Jimenez, you done. Nathan Lukes, you done. And I'd be lying if I said that I knew all these batters well. I don't. The Toronto Blue Jays have went through a lot of turmoil the past couple years, and they're a great example of a franchise that spent money not the proper way in certain areas, overspent in others, and also struggled with certain development. And with the guys that they thrived on the development front, they didn't know what to do with, and they've since regressed, have been injury-riddled, or simply have been dealt because the team decided that we're not going to keep the core together because that makes sense. Imagine being the Toronto Blue Jays and their fans, and you look back in 2021, you got Marcus Semien, you got Bo Bichette, you got Lourdes Gurriel, you got Vladimir Guerrero, you got Vladdy Guerrero Jr. when he's having an MVP caliber year. If it wasn't for Shohei Ohtani, what he did back in 2021 with the Halos. You have Marcus Semien. You have one of the deepest lineups, the best offense, in my opinion, in all Major League Baseball that year, and they didn't even do anything come postseason play because they did not have enough depth in their bullpen. They have been a great example of a team where it's like, oh, okay, when you flip one switch, then the other needs to be flipped, and you can't have them in unison, right? When you have offense, you don't have pitching. When you have pitching, you don't have offense. When you have bullpen, you don't have starting. When you have starting, you don't have offense. It's something along those lines, and sadly, in the case of the Blue Jays and their fans, it's been very repetitive the past couple years, and this is the greatest, now the latest example of why they're a team that's going to be more in a retool/rebuild because their front office continues to make bonehead decisions. And my good friends at Jim at Ballcap Sports, who might be joining us for tomorrow's post-game segment, we love Jim. If you know, you know. And my guys at Blue Jays today, they will all tell you the exact same thing. Ownership down. Things need to change big time. And until things change with front office wise, you're going to have a bad time. We all know that as Mets fans watching the Wilpons, and things haven't been smooth sailing with Steve Cohen. And that just tells you that things are far from easy in baseball. But what is easy, at least for the Mets, is to get dominance from Tyler McGill. Somehow, some way, they got it. Because Tyler would come in and we would see in his final inning of work, he's thinking he's going out for the 7th, rightfully so, because he cruises through the 6th with another strikeout on Dalton Varsho, gets a couple key ground outs, and that would be it for Tyler McGill's final line, everybody. And I'm not going to waste time with this. I really want to deep dive in great depth Tyler McGill's outing, but I want to know on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 10, everybody, how would you guys rate Tyler McGill's outing of 6 innings, 0 earned run, beautiful baseball that we saw there, 9 strikeouts on the day for Siler. Let me see in the live show and in my replay viewers down below how you guys feel about all the following. Thank you so much for the donation, Mark. I appreciate that with a $2 haul. Great member as always. Thanks, Jace, for literally throwing the game away. Oh, this is the Mark that I know. Mark, we love you, my man. So happy to have you back here. Everybody, please continue to send your love and prayers to our awesome friend Mark. For those that don't know, we help promote Mark and his GoFundMe not all that long ago. Sadly, him and his family dealt with a very, very tragic and unfortunate house fire that they have since dealt with and are still recouping from. And Mark has been a tremendous supporter of mine, a very generous friend, one who made me an awesome hiking stick too that has Mets retire numbers themed on it. Tremendous human being, a fantastic person in the space, and we're all wishing him well. Mark, thank you so much for chiming in, my man. Hope you're doing fantastic. Really appreciate the donation as well. You're the absolute best. But guys, let's get now back into breaking down more in this outing, what led the Mets to their victory, because then I'm going to deep dive all you need to know on Mr. Sylor here. Really appreciate it. And what we appreciate is the Mets doing something. And it wouldn't come in the 7th, however, because we would see Jose Iglesias gets on to lead off the inning with a hit by pitch. By this point, the Mets have already been hit 3 times, I believe, in this ball game. Not ideal, and certainly bad fundies there by this Toronto Blue Jays team that have a lack of control with their zone. Starling Marte, though, grounded into a double play to end the inning not long after. Then we head to the bottom of the 7th. In the bottom of the 7th, Danny Young comes in for Tyler McGill. And this is where we have Mets fans not all that happy, understandably so, because Tyler McGill was done after 88 pitches when he retired the final 16 batters he faced. He was simply unhittable. They had nothing to show for it for his fastball touching 97, and that splitty and that nasty 6-pitch mix, which was just truly a thing of beauty. However, what we see here, they would finally pounce and would begin here with Danny Young, because after Danny Young comes in, he gets a ground out on Spencer Horwitz, right? So then we see pinch hitter Davis Schneider come in, and Schneider, who's batting below the Mendoza line, gets on sadly with a hit by pitch. That allows Alejandro Kirk then to get on with the single, so we got 2 on, less than 2 out here, and this is where things get frustrating, because Jose Butto comes in this jam, understandably so that Butto's adopting a jam that is not his own. He has done well throughout the season when adopting runs, and he's also had a bad outing or two that we have seen. Today was unfortunately one of those bad outings or two. It wasn't terrible where it's like the Mets had no chance of coming back in this ball game, but it just stuck out a bit because the offense had nothing to show at this point, and the bullpen was finally being worked for the first time in this ball game. And right away, as McGill exits, the Mets give up not only the game-tying run, but the lead to the Toronto Blue Jays, as Leo Jimenez then would get on with a hit by pitch, and that would lead the Toronto Blue Jays to tying this ball game after Clement, who came in as a pinch hitter there, would single on a sharp ground ball. So then we see it's a tied 1-1 ball game here, and the Mets are trying to get out of this, but not before giving up the game-leading run there to the Toronto Blue Jays, because Nathan Lukes then has himself a sac fly. They get the nice relay throw to home, but it just misses, isn't there in time. Blue Jays are up 2-1 in this ball game. We would see George Springer strike out the way they struck out plenty this season there for the final out of the inning. Jose Butto gets out of the jam, but not unscathed, as he would allow those 2 runs to score, both of which I believe will be charged to Danny Young. They were charged to Danny Young because Danny Young allowed those runners to get on base to begin with, so he's going to have to deal with the consequences there. No less, the Mets are down 2-1 that we see heading to the top of the 8th. How would the Mets respond to the top of the 8th? Well, they respond close to the best way possible for a team that's struggling as much as they are on the offensive end to find consistent hitting. And a huge part of the success here would be thanks to our guy in Ernie Clement, who did get on that we saw with a single there that past inning, which allowed the Toronto Blue Jays to have their success to ultimately score one, if not both, their runs. Clement, however, with the bad fundies at third base, would come back to bite the Toronto Blue Jays right in the ass. Jesse Winker kicks off the inning that we see with a walk. Then we see Tyrone Taylor comes in, a pinch run there for Jesse. Alvey then gets on with a single because of a chopper, just a little bit of a soft chopping single there down the third baseline, and we see Clement try to make the throw. He botches it because he can't handle the hot corner. That allows the Mets to have runners on the corners. Francisco Lindor then grounds out a walk. Lindor, who has not been hitting much lately, that we know he's cooled off a little bit after his amazing MVP heroics so much this season, and that's okay. If anyone deserves a little bit of cool off, it's a guy like Lindor. You can't expect him to be the best player on the planet every single day out there, right? But no less, Lindor gets on with a walk. Bases loaded for the Mets here, less than 2 out. What do they do here? They get their first run, which would tie the ball game after a wild pitch, allows Tyrone Taylor to score. That makes it a 2-2 ball game. And then, as we mentioned, everybody, we got Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez, who comes in to pinch run for Francisco Alvarez. Eddie, who was acquired from the Boston Red Sox earlier today by the Mets, so we broke down a separate video. Check it out in case you haven't already, folks. He would then come in and score the game-winning run on a pass ball. This sneaky mofo bolting down the third baseline. Makes sense why he was an Olympic speed skater, for those that don't know. We showed a really cool video of him back in the Brewers clubhouse a couple years ago, or the past years, I believe in 2022, and mind you, that's the David Stearns connection between the two. That's where it starts at least. You see Alvarez speed skating around doing laps in the clubhouse after a game. It was hilarious. Love to see it. And I'm loving the Eddie Alvarez hype right now as our new pinch runner, our backup infield option, as the Mets DFA'd Pablo Reyes earlier today. A guy that can play the infield and outfield. Not a guy that you're looking for much on the offensive end, but certainly a guy that can steal bags at a great clip and provide that pinch running ability and that late game defensive ability should you need in various versatile positions. That's what you're getting in Eddie Alvarez, simply put, and his immediate impact would be a game-winning run scored for this Mets team, as we would then see Francisco Lindor steal his 27th bag of the year there in the 8th, but nothing else transpires. And something to make a note of, Pete Alonso strikes out swinging with 2 on, 2 out here for the final line, or at least a runner there at third base. Why is that notable to me? That's notable to me for Pete Alonso, considering Pete once again cannot execute with runners in scoring position, 2 out, high leverage situations. Now, Alonso has batted overall much better in the second half post-trade deadline. He has had some big hits. He has had some massive home runs when the Mets actually needed it. The consistency has not been there, however, and the reason why I emphasize this strikeout there is because this is a great example of what Alonso has done for the vast majority of the season. This outweighs some of the recent successes, because the recent successes are great, but they need to be consistent, because even when Alonso labored the way that he did plenty in 2023, he at least didn't waver from still being a clutch hitter when the Mets need him to step up in 2-out situations, runners in scoring position, high leverage, you name it. Alonso has famously been actually one of the Mets' better hitters in recent years in that regard. Not like the guy leading the way every year like he did in 2022 in a lot of ways, but still a guy that's serviceable in said areas and in said positions and said leverage situations. Now we fast forward to 2024, and it's just a lot of the same here when it's just glaring. It's obnoxiously bad how bad his splits are in those leverage situations. So Alonso strikes out there, and we would see Tyrone Taylor stay in for the remainder of the game there and shift to center field. Ryan Stanek would come in to pitch a masterful 8th inning. Luis Torrens would then replace Eddie Alvarez, and he would be playing catcher there too. And we would see a masterful 1-2-3 striking out the side. Ryan Stanek, fastball touching 99. That split was absolutely disgusting. Had so much drop. Huge swing and miss on Spencer Horwitz for the 3rd and final strikeout of the inning. Ryan Stanek, as I mentioned, folks, has been one of the more serviceable arms in this Mets bullpen, going all the way back to when he got rocked by the Seattle Mariners, which was the last time the Mets have had a series of that magnitude. That was probably one of the worst series for the Mets this year, with no offense whatsoever, and he didn't even have the pitching because the Seattle Mariners pitching is just too good. Now we fast forward, Ryan Stanek has been a dog since that outing against his former club, and I love to see that. Let's see, Wardy, what's up with you and WFAN? There's nothing up with me and WFAN, other than I have been on WFAN in the past. I've done segments with them with Sal Licata, at least one time. I have also done plenty of work and will continue to do side stuff with SNY, New York Post, those kind of things, and Bleacher Report too, as I'm an active host, and I will have BR segments for you guys in the month of September, MLB coverage-wise as a whole, as we head into playoffs, which I'm really looking forward to. Same way I'm looking forward to the Mets continuing their winning ways, and they secured the dub this way, 3-1, 3-2 is your final. Edwin Diaz, we saw give up a 2-out single to Ernie Clement, funny enough, the same guy that had the bad fundies that led to a run scored in this one for the Mets. And after that lawn fly out there, just falling short on the warning track to Starling Marte's glove, Leo Jimenez flies out, and the Mets win this one by a final score of 3-2. I want to know, really quick question to everybody watching live on a replay, which player stood out the most to you, not named Tyler McGill in this outing? Because for me, there is one guy that just sticks out like a sore thumb. And as much as I absolutely loved what we saw there and Ryan Stanek has been doing that for the past, number of outings now. 7.2 outings where he's allowed just 1 earned run, 11 strikeouts throughout that span. He's been brilliant for a good stretch now in Ryan Stanek. So I'm not going to expand too much more on him right now. But what I am going to expand on a little bit is Eddie Alvarez. Seriously, he is the unsung hero here. And the reason why I want to bring a heavier point here with Eddie Alvarez is, the first comment I got on my video today from a fellow Mets fan that watches me every day, I'm blanking on the name, so I apologize, brother, but he knows who he is, and he said, who cares? My response was, anyone that cares about Mets transactions of players that could potentially impact the team right away. What do we find out? Eddie Alvarez is automatically called up instead of being sent down. Pablo Reyes is DFA'd, and Alvarez, speed demon, has the game-winning run there, bolting out the third baseline. That might not seem seem like much to you, but for a Mets team that has been looking for another Terrence Score, another Travis Jankowski, another true base stealing threat that they can utilize in high leverage, deep late in ball games, just imagine what Eddie Alvarez's impact could be, even solely as a pinch runner in some key matchups against the Phillies, the Braves, and potentially the Brewers for the final series of the year. It would be bittersweet in the case of Alvarez because this is a guy that I do not believe is eligible to be active on the playoff roster. I know that he's active on the Mets roster right now, and Reyes was DFA'd, but correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that he can be playoff eligible for this Mets roster because he was acquired after September 1st, and I do believe any trade or any minor league deal that's after September 1st and means that those players have been on the 40-man to begin with, they're not eligible for postseason play. So even if this is not a guy that can impact you in a wildcard situation, should the Mets stay in this spot and hopefully secure that playoff spot by season's end, Eddie, in the meantime, can have a nice impact on them. And seriously, if it wasn't for him, the Mets potentially don't win this ball game with him bolting down third base the way he did so brilliantly. Cherno with the $2 donation says, get DJ Stewart, a.k.a. Satan, off my team. Anyone else, I appreciate the donation. I don't think Teddy's a bad guy. I certainly don't think he's along the lines of the bighorn pain in the ass, you know who. But I will tell you that in the case here of Mr. DJ Stewart, it's just because he has the experience and because Mendy has a comfortability with him. I don't expect DJ to get a lot of playing time. I don't think he deserves to be on this roster right now. I think the Mets should utilize that spot for someone else, which is a perfect transition into some prospect updates I'm going to share with you all very shortly, as we're going to headline a lot of it having to do with what we saw there in Shintaro Fujinami and what is going on with him. So let's break down exactly that. Let's get into those details. Was described as a spark plug for the Mets, and maybe Eddie Alvarez will function the same way. Seriously, great quote there. Great comment, rather, caution. Great member as always, and you're 100% right. Those spark plugs can make a difference, and Eddie Alvarez is a vibes guy, tremendous clubhouse guy too, and that's what we're looking for. So yeah, Eddie is not eligible for playoffs as I expected. That's okay, is what it is. You know what is amazing? It is Tyler McGill. So without further ado, let's break down why exactly Tyler McGill somehow, some way went from being a last-minute decision for the Mets to call upon to being a guy that the Mets absolutely are going to consider for the next turn in the rotation over Paul Blackburn potentially, in which Paul Blackburn, who dealt with a little bit of a back flare-up, he's going to be okay, but you noticed it especially after his rehab start there at AAA. So we'll see what is the future of Paul Blackburn, but you can never have enough good arms in the Mets. If you get good quality from Tyler McGill now, doesn't matter that he didn't do it earlier in the year. All that matters is right here, right now, and going forward. Let's get more of this. That can be absolutely huge. And as we break down the details here on Tyler, Cherno, thank you for the $2 donation. Really appreciate that. I've been reasonable. It's crazy time. No more DJ. I know you've been reasonable. Again, DJ Stewart deserves very little to any playing time. The fact that he got a start in his first game back when JDM got put on the paternity list and left field no less was so stupid. None of it ever made sense. Even with him having a hit in the game, it just did not make sense, and I'll stand by that. I'll also stand by Tyler McGill and what he did today, and he shut down a lot of the haters, at least for this start, and rightfully so, because what McGill did today was the following: a four-seam fastball, which was 30% of his arsenal, sitting right around 96, topping out 97.6 miles per hour. As a surprise to absolutely nobody, and as I've been preaching to you all season long, Tyler McGill, when he has his most success, wow, would you look at that? The fastball velocity is up. It's almost like he needs the velo to help set up his off-speed and breaking pitches in order to have more success the way that he certainly did today. The sinker, which was 26% of the arsenal, which he induced a lot of nice ground ball outs, sat 95, topped out 96. Splitter, 14% of the arsenal, sitting right around 85.6, topped out 87. Slider, 13% of the arsenal, 85 miles per hour, and topped out 87 to 88. Cutter, 13% of the arsenal, sat 90, topped out 91, 92, and curveball, 6% of the arsenal, sat right around 80 and topped out right around 80, 81. Just when you, oh my God, I love my guy Isaac, our pitching contributor, so much, because Isaac literally started this report for us exactly what I was thinking as soon as Tyler went 6 shutty. And it's the Al Pacino quote that I say all the time that you guys know very well. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. And that is exactly how a lot of Mets fans feel yet again here with Tyler McGill. Seriously, Tyler just did the improbable, the impossible to many. As he's done many times before, McGill stepped up in a spot when the team asked and needed him to do so. Mind you, is it full context that McGill dominated against the Blue Jays the same way that his good start against the White Sox was against the White Sox? Yes, those things are true. And yes, we shouldn't look at that and expect the same transition and say a playoff hungry matchup against the Philadelphia Phillies. But this is a good stepping stone in the right direction. And should we see McGill get another opportunity to start or be utilized as a multi-aim reliever, this could be some untapped potential that we really haven't seen yet with Tyler this year. And if it's going to come, it better come now, or else it's not going to come at all this season. And for Tyler, he did his thing. We saw McGill didn't make any notable adjustments in this outing, funny enough, but he consistently challenged hitters with both of his fastballs. Something to make note of, there was a lot of confidence with Tyler McGill. Wasn't working around batters. I feel like we've seen so much. And even though that, yes, he labored in the first inning, escaped the bases loaded jam unscathed, having himself to thank more than anything. Both his four-seam fastball, which had a 54% whiff rate in this one, and the sinker graded out with a 109 stuff plus according to TJ Stats. Shout out to TJ Stats. I saw him. He was on the latest episode of my guys Mark and James at the Mets Stuff podcast. I'll always give them a free plug. Great friends of mine. They do awesome work there too. And TJ, who created the stat system for pitches with the stuff plus, basically means if you're above league average, you're above 100. If you're below league average, you're below 100. And in the case there of the Mets, and especially Tyler McGill, he was roughly 10% above league average on those respective pitches, on the whiff, on the four-seam fastball and the sinker. It's rare to find a pitcher with two fastballs grading that high, especially in a start like this. The sinker, which he's been using more recently, looked sharp, averaging almost 17 inches of arm side run. It also had a 36% chase rate and limited hard contact, posting a 2.09 expected WOBA against. McGill mixed in his four pitches as well, with his low spin rate splitter standing out, earning a 50% whiff rate. That splitter was a beauty for Tyler McGill in his arsenal. Absolutely loved what we saw from him. And a little fun tidbit on the splitter, and something that I know that Isaac doesn't even have noted here, because we haven't really talked about spin rates all that much since the epidemic with it, going back to when they did the sticky substance breakdown for the first time a couple years ago. But what we know with spin rates is that they can fluctuate, and if they're going to fluctuate beyond, a certain amount of number, then you might wonder if there was an adjustment. In the case of Tyler McGill, his splitter was the only pitch in his arsenal out of his 6 pitches that stood out significantly on the spin rate differential. It was up by right around 140 points or so, which isn't overly crazy, but just something to make a note of, because he had great success with it that we saw in this matchup against the Blue Jays. And with 15 whiffs overall and retiring his 16 straight batters, McGill managed to harness his nasty stuff while limiting walks. I'm not ready to say he's fully back yet, at least Isaac isn't, and I'm not ready to say it either, because I'm going to go on and say I don't know what Tyler McGill is. You know what I mean? That's the identity that we've been trying to figure out throughout the past number of years with Tyler McGill. What is he actually for this Mets team? Like, what is going to define him? What is this arsenal going to establish to be? He's always had the stuff. He's always had the potential, but it's been always about putting it together. Will this be the stepping stone to finally make that happen? I know we've said that many times, and it's like a boy who cried wolf to many, but for me, I'm going to have optimism. I'm going to have, honestly, just some positivity when I view Tyler McGill and the brilliance that was him today, and an appreciation for him, because even if we don't get a better outing, or if we don't get any similar replication of what we got from him tonight, I greatly appreciate him coming out and balling out when the Mets needed to, where they needed a last-minute starter here over Paul Blackburn, who had the back flare-up. So I will appreciate that, at least for what it is. Steven, my man, how are you? Thank you so much for being here. Let's see. Why do I scream the entire time Badlands? And enlighten me on who's been yelling. If so, get back to me. Assuming you're talking to me. Yes, do I yell a lot in my shows? 100%, because I'm always amped up and juiced up about my team. It's not screaming, it's yelling. It's because I'm adamant and I'm excited, and I love being passionate about my New York Metropolitan, so I cover for a living for the past 3.5 years. So if that doesn't suit well for you, that's okay, but thankfully we got thousands of others who have not different, but yes, different and varying opinions on that. So I appreciate you guys no matter how much you love or hate me, and we're going to continue to break down this Metropolitan victory. Tyler McGill is going to get a 7 out of 10 according to Isaac Rothman, but I'm sorry. This is a Tyler McGill that easily could have went 7 shutty for the Mets today. I'm giving him a whopping 7.5 out of 10. And the reason why I'm giving Tyler McGill not even a 7, but a 7.5 out of 10 is simply this. He has not done something like this season. This was the most comfortable I've seen Tyler McGill, especially after a jam in which he got out of the bases loaded jam unscathed in the first around 30 pitches. That is by all means, not an easy thing to do. He deserves appreciation, and that is why I'm going to give him a 7.5 out of 10. A lot of you guys in the chat today I saw had at least a 7. Some had an 8 as well, so I think we're all around the similar realm. I may be going a little bit overzealous on this. Isaac went a little bit more conservative, though I think we've seen in the past. Either way, 7.5 out of 10 is my final rating for Mr. Tyler Big Drip McGill. I spent a couple minutes on more than anything. Drew Gilbert and Luke Ritter. Simply put, Luke Ritter, guys, has been having a tremendous season in the minor leagues this year. Over 20 home runs, over 800 OPS. He has done everything that you could ask to warrant a call-up. However, because Luke Ritter doesn't have as much position versatility as guys like Eddie Alvarez and Pablo Reyes that we talked about today, because he doesn't steal bags at a great clip like those players, and because he doesn't have any MLB experience, this ultimately leads to exactly why this Mets team, when looking at their depth, haven't really considered someone like Luke Ritter, because they've emphasized MLB experience clearly going directly in hand with their call-up decisions, their waiver wire decisions, and whatever it's going to be. So Luke Ritter, do I think that he deserves at least an opportunity given the current offensive configuration with both Eddie Alvarez and DJ Stewart on this roster? I absolutely do, because especially with Eddie here as the lefty bat, all the more reason to not have DJ. Because seriously, outside of getting a home run from DJ Stewart, he provides nothing to this Mets team for the most part. And that's where you want to have potentially a guy that could provide some upside that you haven't seen yet. Why not give Luke Ritter an opportunity? At absolute worst, he's not going to do anything for you in a limited role, and then you send him back down and you deal with that. You know what I mean? Drew Gilbert, who's hit 7 home runs in his past 15, 16 games now, he's batting just over the Mendoza line. Did have an RBI single, went 1 for 5 for Syracuse yesterday in their matchup. He's a guy that, yes, has been big swing and miss, but when he barrels baseballs, he gets all of them. And he's without question the Mets' top outfield prospect, and for a reason. And Drew is a guy that, should he continue to slug the way that he is at the AAA level right now, I think you'd be foolish for the Mets to, at minimum, consider someone like him as a late September call-up, should they be willing to have him in a platoon role, knowing that, yes, that might hurt some of his development. Is that something the Mets are willing to risk? And is that something that Drew has the right mentality to handle? I think Drew Gilbert has a far greater opportunity to succeed at the MLB level right away with his bat than anyone else in the Mets farm when evaluating prospects that aren't 27-year-old vets in the case of Luke Ritter. Evaluating himself, Luis Angel Acuna, and others, I firmly believe Drew Gilbert can get all the baseball, especially on even a heater that's coming 99, 100 at you. He can turn on that thing big time, and that defense is solid. He has speed on the bags. He's a very strong 5-tool player when everything's said and done and right. I understand the thought behind not wanting to hurt his development, but in the case of Drew Gilbert, he is a guy that you might just want to consider as that go-to call-up option, like the Mets did all those years ago with another lefty power bat option to handle the corner outfielder, my favorite Metropolitan growing up, and a guy that I still view greatly today, even though he has been the same since those shoulder injuries, and that is, yes, Michael Conforto. So that's what I'll leave you with on the front of Luke Ritter there, as well as Drew Gilbert. Really curious where you guys stand on that, and let me know in the comments down below. The same applies, but let's do a complete deep dive now on why Shintaro Fujinami has been pitching so great, and why the Mets now may consider him as a call-up before the season's end. Because even if Shintaro Fujinami cannot be eligible for postseason play the way he can't, he at minimum can impact this Mets bullpen should they call upon him before the season's end. And with a couple weeks left right now, there's going to be one guy that sticks out like a sore thumb on the bullpen when that happens. And should they want to consider sending a guy down or DFAing them and calling someone up, this is where you might as well see what you have in Shintaro Fujinami, because let's break down the greatness that is. I also understand the thought behind not wanting to bring up Fujinami because, the walk rate issue and not pitching at all at the major league level this year. Why should we expect success now? Well, this is why we should expect success now. And Isaac Rothman, again, folks, make sure to check him out on Twitter as well, on our official WardyNYM Twitter account with over 64,000 strong followers there. And let's deep dive what exactly has been working for him and why he has harnessed his control. All from Isaac here. Check it out, the thread. Disclaimer, I'm not an expert on pitching mechanics, just an analyst making observations. That is Isaac speaking. And in 7.2 innings over 9 games to start the season in AAA, Fujinami posted a 14-year rate and walked 17 hitters. Shortly after this rough start, he was placed on the IL for a significant period of time. Since then, and since returning back on July 11th, he has posted a 2.21 year rate across 20.1 innings. He has walked 12 batters and he has struck out 23 in said innings. In the last 8 games, Fujinami has walked just 2 hitters, bringing his walk-to-9 ratio at just a 1.6. It is gorgeous. His 21 from a 21 walk-to-9 ratio to a 1.6 is simply incredible, especially in that short of a sample size over those 8 games. What changed so much for Fujinami? Why is he working now? Well, there's a couple things. And as you guys can see here, there's one thing that I noticed right away with Fujinami. And Isaac asked me earlier today, what do you think is different with Fujinami in his arsenal? If you looked at the right side versus the left side is Fujinami back that we saw in the month of April. The right side is Shintaro Fujinami as of yesterday. Something that you will notice right away is that he obviously is having his hands higher with his glove. That elbow is higher, and you're seeing it in the follow through there. The elbow is lower there on the left side versus the right. Keeps that higher up and more compact with his follow through of his arsenal. And as we break this down further here, first, he's slightly lowering his arm angle from a 5.68 feet of vertical release to 5.66. This could mean he's found a more comfortable arm slot. Looking at this chart, you can see he tends to throw harder from lower slots. This was Isaac's first attempt of coding, might I add, and he did a brilliant job. I had no clue what I was looking at whatsoever on this table until Isaac told me what exactly that is. So as you guys can see right now, just to show you the context on how he tends to throw harder from lower slots, and that's the evidence to prove exactly that. Another adjustment is the glove position. He's now holding his glove higher and closer to his chest before his delivery. This small change can put him in a more comfortable position, boosting that velocity, in which he's showcased greatly, touching 100 there at the AAA level. It also looks like Fujinami is driving harder off the mound. In the left video, there's a slight hop at the end of his delivery, indicating he's more explosive now. So see that little difference there, and the hop versus not hop, liking what I'm seeing there from Fuji. What Fujinami has done in the last month is remarkable. He's cut down the walks while increasing velocity. His delivery is now more controlled and fluid, but more explosive than ever. So that's the latest there on Isaac Rothman's fantastic breakdown there on Shintaro Fujinami. And another very good point that was from the comments here that I actually want to make note of to the Mets fan that said this. Let me see, I can't pull it up right now, but I did see a Mets fan quote this earlier and say how he believes that the cutter for Shintaro Fujinami, that change has been a big part of what he's noticed, at least to the success level, because the cutter, that was a pitch that was very, very close with the fastball and velocity and really didn't have a great shape, which led to issues there, especially with his fastball shape as a whole. Had some struggles at the MLB level when he started his career there with the Oakland A's last year. Fast forward a year later, though, Fuji, the walk rates have hurt him big time. We know that. Things have definitely changed for the best reasons since July 11th. Again, when you have over those 20-plus innings, 23 strikeouts, 12 walks. That's a solid K to walk ratio right there. And you are getting now over your past 8 outings for Shintaro Fujinami, only a couple walks and striking out guys at a ridiculous clip. Now is what I think truly warrants that Shintaro Fujinami discussion, because he has played his way to gain all the attention of not only us Mets fans, but the Mets coaching staff plenty. So that is what I will leave you with on the Shintaro Fujinami front. The same way I'm going to leave you guys here in just a second. But before I do, I want to sincerely thank you all so much for chiming in to the latest New York Metropolitan postgame show. We will be back live tomorrow, win, lose, or draw, against those Blue Jays. And I very well could be accompanied by my awesome friend Jim from Ballcap Sports, who's not only a big Blue Jays fan, but covers MLB as a whole there on his YouTube channel with 40,000 plus strong subscribers. We've collaborated with Jim in the past, great friend of mine. I go to spring training with him, Robbie Hyde, Draft Nick Mark, and others every single year. Mike at SRS2, love him, love all of them. And I'm really curious to hear what Jim has to say about the Mets, because Jim has, not that he's a Mets fan, but he's gained a great appreciation for the Mets. I'm happy to say that I played a part in that, doing spring training with him the past couple years. He's seen Mark Vientos up close. Him and Robbie were heavy advocates for Vientos from the beginning, and it's really cool to see how much that they have thrived now, and that being in Mark this season, being really the force that no one expected to be to this degree for this Mets team this season, not named Francisco Lindor. So thank you guys all so much for watching. I'll see you all for tomorrow's coverage. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your night, day, evening. Whenever you're watching this, Metsies kick off their series the best way possible with a 3-2 victory, a sweaty one, but a victory no less, and they look to continue their winning ways there tomorrow and their 4th consecutive potential series victory. That'll do it for your guy Wardy, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for checking out BetUS with our promo code YouTube150. On that way, you get 150% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 for all your sports betting needs. If you haven't gotten in on the action tailing our NFL picks, you better now, because your boy just officially hit on his 2-leg parlay. Lions won in overtime yesterday. 49ers won today against the Jets, who I didn't want to see win, that being in the Niners. I would have loved to see the Jets win. Sadly, they didn't, but I expected that. That's why we went with the 2 legs. So we're on a little bit of a heater right now. I'm up, $20 there. So we won, I think, $43 total on that $20 bet. We'll take that, baby, and we'll see what we have in store for you guys tomorrow. Have a great one, folks. And as always, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.